Hey, folks, welcome to the Generational Gap. I am Robert, your resident Gen Xer, and right over there is John, our resident Millennial. John, how are you tonight?
I am very well. Thank you for asking.
Wow, when I was asking that, the Elvis song popped in my head. Are you lonesome tonight?
Oh yeah.
Is your thing feeling inside? Hey, good to see we got some folks in the chat. We got Saint hanging out there, calling us out for what we really are.
That's
And I
right.
see Wyatt. We're just everyone. We're just everyone.
Everyone,
And
all the ones. Yo.
we're just a part of the whole.
That's right. We're
Uh,
like we're like the Borg.
is that it?
We're like yeah. We're just all small pieces of a much larger mind.
Hey, while we've got you here,
Oh.
first, fresh, right here on the tip of our tongues, please hit that like button. I'm assuming you have the subscribe button hit, but just in case, uh, make sure and hit all those fun buttons and make sure we get those thumbs. We like those thumbs. Everybody likes a little thumb every once in a while, and if you
I
don't,
think we've had this conversation before. Do you have the hitchhiker's thumb?
yeah,
Yeah, you do.
yeah, I
I think
got.
we did have that conversation before.
But I
Yeah.
also got these.
Yeah, that's a little I can't do that.
Yeah, this is one. If you do it too long, like you can hold. If you hold this for too long, and I found this out when I was a kid because I was like, how long can I hold this? If you do this
It's not
too
like
long,
no, see mine's different.
no, you got to keep those other
Yeah.
ones locked. But if you do this too long, you can get permanent chimp hand.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that well, permanent for a while. It feels like it's going to be permanent. You're like,
Permanent
oh
for a
god,
while.
it's like, well,
Temporary permanence.
when you're a kid, it's lasting forever till it
Right.
stops, right? You're like, oh shit, I broke it. How do I fix this? I've broken my hand. What do I
Yeah.
do? But yeah. Yeah, I used to think shit like that was fun when I was a kid. I was like, oh, I could do this. People can't. Don't most people have hitchhiker's thumbs? Yes, and as some
Do
people,
they?
well, like I've
I
seen,
don't
I don't
know.
know, some people, I don't think, maybe it's some people just don't bend their thumb back when they do stuff. They're just more comfortable, they're lazy thumb.
It
I don't
couldn't.
know,
Oh my god, look how lame that looks.
right? Who does that?
Nah, dude.
Who
Right.
does
Who
that?
does
Don't do.
this?
Let's not do too much
Yeah.
of this though. We'll get deplatformed.
Will
I
we?
don't know. There's something wrong with that
I'm sure
somewhere.
it's racist
Right.
somehow.
I
Wait,
mean,
wait. Okay, yeah, you have that, right? It's a white guy, obviously, right? And then you just put like a little hood over it, like a little tissue or something right there. Boom, KKK. It's a white power symbol. Damn it. We just can't help it be racist on this show. I don't know.
The,
Fuck.
no, it wasn't racist till you explained how to do it. It was everything was fine till you went to that
No,
level.
you just imagine the issue on there.
Now
You
it's
don't
an
actually have to put it
educational
there.
video. Great.
Yeah, right. Now we're yeah, exactly. Now we're educating the populace. There we go.
Jimmy, you know better than to put a hood on that thing. I have hitchhiker's thumb and disjointed fingers. Yes, I always wanted the. I always wanted the. I don't know what they call it when you can like dislocate. Like, is that disjointed where you can
uh,
dislocate
I guess
stuff? Have you
so. I
seen
don't
those
know.
people?
Yeah,
But like, cause like that makes like if you can dislocate your thumb on command, you can be out of handcuffs
yeah,
all the time because you can pop it and you just
right.
slip right out. But I don't know. I don't know how people do that.
For me, it's the elbows that's fucking creepy. When people can like push their elbows
Double
up,
jointed.
like yeah, double jointed up. Oh, fuck
That's
off with
Ron
that,
Helton
man.
in the house.
Ron
Yeah,
Helton.
those people are one of the reasons why I watch stuff like America's Got Talent. Because there's typically every season there'll be someone that comes on, a dancer that comes on, and that's what he's doing is that broken,
Yeah.
disjointed breaking, true
Uh,
breaking, bone breakers or whatever they. I think
fuck
it's
off.
called something like that. But yeah,
Leave my bones alone, man. Leave my joints alone.
yeah, there's some really freaky folks that I'm like, I don't know how you do that. I can't because I watch and I'm like, I need to slow it down and look. Are they fully rotating something in the socket? And if so, how does that not fuck up your ligaments and things? I don't know. It freaks me out. Uh, According to all of you, I have messed up looking hands.
It's
I
true.
did we
We spent like 5 minutes just roasting Saint on his hand when he sent a picture. Like he sent a picture of a book to prove a point,
Oh,
and then
that's
like it had
right.
part of his hand
Well,
in
it
it,
looked like an
and we just made
alien.
fun of his
Though
hand for
it
like
only
five
had the
minutes.
three fingers. It looked like an alien hand.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
truly did. And so you'll have to forgive us on that point, Saint. I mean, if you go back and look at that picture, that's something that somebody might like put out from Area 51. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly.
Not only that, but like making fun of you is kind of how we show affection around here. So you take
Yeah,
it as a compliment.
if we're not
Yeah.
if we're not making fun of you, how will you ever feel like family?
Right. Exactly.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ. You don't want to be roasted? All right, fine.
Yeah.
Fine. Fine. Get out. No.
You don't want to get roasted. You don't want to get roasted. You
Some
know.
guys just don't want the love. So,
Yeah.
John, like the news has
Yeah,
been
that's a
happening.
thing.
Hey, before I talk about anything though, I do want to make sure that we give a shout out both for ourselves and for the others that were there on Anna Voltus's show from Wednesday
Yes.
night, where we were talking about the Monopoly on Violence documentary that was going around. He posted in our show suggestions, I believe.
Yeah.
But excellent documentary for what it was, but really good conversation. Anna Voltis, of course, was there. You and I were there. We also had Jay Edgar there, and had Wyatt from Roundtable, who's in the chat, was there as well. I thought it was a pretty good conversation. Wasn't
Yeah.
bad at all. I will say, I still I have thought about it more and more since the conversation Wednesday, and I am still coming to the conclusion that it will be the state um, before anything else. We are gonna experience the boot before anything else changes
Yeah.
around here.
Well,
And
that would be a cataclysmic moment.
yes,
Bringing the boot down hard enough will be what causes.
but the question is which boot is it going to be,
Yeah.
right?
I
So,
don't think it really matters which boot it
well,
is.
no, no, it will to a certain extent. Okay, I think that a boot coming from the right will be more civilly impactful than the boot. I almost want to say the padded boot that will be coming. It would come down from the left.
I don't
Like
think there
if
would
if
be a
they
padded boot.
well, it's padded under, feel good things. We're getting rid of racism by controlling speech. We're getting rid of,
Okay.
inequality by controlling media
It would
and
be like
thought.
it's more like putting like a little piece of Kraft American cheese on the end of a cleat. It's still gonna fucking stab you. It
Well,
just kind of
yeah,
looks more appetizing on the way
sure.
down.
So, still, cheese is padding. So, but no, but that's so that's what the question becomes is which one is it going to be, and I hate to say it, but it's possible that Yasmin from Discord may be close to right, depending on how things shake out over the next few months, that it may be something to do with the election that causes something to get a little crazy around here. But I
Very
don't
well could,
necessarily
yeah.
expect that. Um,
To be
but,
fair, that's what I thought with the last election. So, who knows? I
but
mean, we kind of have been in like a 4-year perpetual, you know,
sure.
tantrum. Yeah.
So but let's look at, things that we're going to talk about tonight are going to be some things that play a role in this. So, the first thing that comes to mind is Chop or Chaz. All of this that was going on in Seattle. Well, apparently it's coming to an end, right? So I guess they're saying from internally, they're saying, it's we've said what we meant to say. So now it's time that we go back to our homes and make sure and vote for Joe, right?
Right.
Um, but that is coming after the pressure. It was announced that the pressure was going to be turned up on them because there have been so like there were 3 nights in the course of 3 nights, four shootings happened. One at least one person died from those shootings. There was not police, of course, not allowed in. We talked about this on the other show.
Hmm.
Police not allowed in, which also that pissed them off at the paramedics. Paramedics didn't have a safe space to come into. But anyway, they realized that, okay, well, maybe we can't handle these things. And then, of course, pressure from the Seattle Police Department and government saying, okay, we're going to have to come back into that area because y'all aren't getting it done. you know,
Right.
so, but does this get chalked up as a failure? Is it impetus for more, or is it?
Well, I mean, I think it's clearly impetus for more because we're seeing that there's one in DC that's trying to set up. I highly doubt anything's going to happen there, and I haven't kept up with what's going on in the one in DC. Even though our boy Steven's been out there, I don't have Instagram, so I don't watch his streams, unfortunately. Um, but so there's that one, and then I think there was one in Arizona trying to set up, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong about that. Um, so I mean, yeah, it's definitely going to encourage people to try it more, at least in the short term. Who knows what will happen? When the buzz kind of dies down about these autonomous zones.
Well, Trump has said he's not going to allow that to be set up in D.C. First off,
Right. I don't think that one would last. I don't know why they would. I guess they would try because then they can play the victim that hey, they came and fucked with us. It's like, yeah, no shit, you're in DC, dude. Like, sorry.
well, when it's all said and done, there's been victims on both sides in all of this. But Chop, Chaz, whatever anybody, what I don't know what their final name is going to be when the annals of time record them as such. But I don't know that they proved anything to me, because I saw little things that like having you know segregated gardens, or weird little things like that, and I'm
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, you know what? You're doing the hippie thing. You're doing the summer of love. That's really, it felt like that's what they were trying to create. That's what I was
Right.
seeing, just a modern
Well,
day
that's what the
version.
media was.
For
Yeah.
sure, right? And
Yeah.
of course, when you look at it through that lens and you think back to what was going on back in the 60s, 70s, Woodstock and all of that, but it was different then. Those were actually peaceful. They were, for the most part. I mean, there wasn't as much violence during those as there was from these, I don't think. But some people would probably disagree. But
Yeah.
I don't know that. I don't know. Did they prove anything to you as a libertarian or as someone who is against the authority of the government being so large?
Well, it proved to me that, I mean, I guess we already knew this, but I guess it was more validation that the Pacific Northwest is completely cucked, and we first of all, we've already lost that to the culture war. They're gone. But yeah, like, basically the governments there handled the left with kid gloves. Is kind of what I took away from it. Once again, it's just further proof
Okay.
that yeah, they can pretty much do whatever they want, and nothing. There won't be any consequences, which is why they think they can do that everywhere, such as DC.
Let's. I'm gonna do a little role play here with you, and ask you to put yourself in the position of authority there in
God damn it!
Seattle,
Yeah.
and Chaz forms. What do you do as authority there? Do you play the cut card like they did to appease and not cause further mayhem and death?
Yeah.
Or do you step in with a local level boot? What do you do in that position, John?
Yeah, so that's a very tough position to be in because you got to think about re-election coming up, and most of the people in the city either empathize or completely agree with what the message is that they're trying to espouse. So to to kind of just bring the boot down on it, it'll be seen in the media as, you're taking out their message or silencing them, which is of course not what's happening. It's
Right.
you're stopping them from holding people hostage
Right.
in businesses and whatnot. And not only that, all the sexual assault cases that I've heard about, rumors of. I'm sure that if it's anything like the Occupy movement, they had tons of that. Like there was, whenever something like that happens, there's always going to be some nefarious deeds going down.
Uh-huh.
And then of course the shootings, that puts you in even more precarious position,
Right.
because it's kind of your job to enforce the law, especially if people are getting shot.
Even if they say we don't want no police around here, right? I mean,
Yeah,
do you
it's
just
yeah.
let someone take over a part of your city, right? It comes down to that question. And
Hmm.
I honestly, I mean, I don't care who you are. You don't have to be a statist to to wrap your head around. You can't let somebody take over your territory
Right.
just, willy
Yeah.
nilly. And now guess what Seattle's got to deal with? A class action lawsuit being brought by the businesses in the
Yep.
chop against the city for allowing that to happen.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the biggest problems with being any kind of figure of authority is it's impossible to please everyone. No matter what decision you make, someone is going to be pissed off at you,
Yeah.
no matter what. So yeah, all you really can do is try and please the most amount of people possible. And yeah, that's tough with that sort of
Well,
situation going on, because like I said, a lot of people empathize with what their cause,
sh-
I guess.
sure. However, what I will stand by, because
Hmm.
it is the form and function that we live under, they did not do it constitutionally. They were not within the bounds of the Constitution to do what they did, especially knowing that there were people there that didn't have a choice. People that lived there, had businesses there, et cetera,
Right.
that didn't have a choice in it. So I can't I can't call it a protest. There was a point where it stopped being a protest and it started being an occupation, and that's
Right.
bad. Um, so that's where I think they failed. Um, overall to me, that was their biggest failure. Plus, they couldn't police their own people, their own
No.
territory. They couldn't. I mean, and it just goes to show that guess what? There's a reason why the police are there.
Yeah.
Now, whatever you want to do about their training, whatever you want to do about the weapons they have, etc., that's fine. But you need the police there. There's a reason, and this has proved evidence of it. Other things throughout the riots have proved evidence of it to me as to why they're needed. And I get, what you'll mostly see from people is the images of police brutality going on through the protests. But when I can turn around and I can pull up an equal number of violent altercations going on amongst citizens during the riots, well, I mean, don't throw your police brutality around at me when the same thing, the emotions are running high on both sides, and it's happening, in multiple ways.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna sit there and say, oh, again, this just shows the corruption of the police. I will not abide that argument in all of this. But so what is interesting that you bring up the potential, autonomous zone, the chop that they want to set up in Washington, D.C. Apparently, the House passed today a resolution to make Washington, D.C. a state,
Oh
the
God.
51st state.
So we have to add Puerto Rico or Guam,
Well,
because
if they
I
want
mean we
to,
can't have 51 states. That's fucking retarded. I would
well,
not accept that. That is
um,
boogaloo talk right there.
um, my thought is the first thing that comes to mind when that is was proposed, when I saw that the article on it, I was like, hold on a minute. I said, why are there people living in Washington, D.C., other than politicians, right?
Hmm.
Or why I, I don't understand why DC is still what it is and why it's not just a part of the state it's in, except for the government buildings. If you want those to remain autonomous, I don't understand why the entire district is set aside from the country and you allow people to live in it because those people they don't count. They don't, you know, it's like, and I it then go it
They
goes a little
don't count.
it goes a
They're not
little
even
far.
really people, really.
Well, here's why they don't count from the highest level. It's expected that Trump is going to fight this resolution and not let it happen because he expects that they'll just put Democrats in the Senate. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a kind of fucked up reason to fight it, but still, I mean, you know, um,
I mean, it is true though. That is largely what DC is about.
well, but the thing is like if you're gonna, what's the population in DC at this point? Would have to look that up to find out. But those people are not represented. This has been an argument that's been ongoing for quite some time is that they're not represented in Washington. They're in the heart of the country, Washington D.C., yet they're not represented because they don't have anyone representing their district.
Right.
Right? It's like, well, you kind of have a point there. I don't understand why people who live there that aren't politicians are not just considered residents of the state. It just would make sense to
What, like
me.
Maryland residents?
Yeah, Maryland residents. So
Yeah,
let's
makes
see what
sense.
the chat has to say because there's a good chance that some folks have it. Helton says more than one half of Puerto Rico does not want to be a state, and I agree
Yeah,
with that. I don't think
and and
you
they
can
shouldn't.
you can
Yeah,
make the offer to Puerto Rico, but I don't. I think they would have been if they had really wanted to be by this point, especially when Obama was president. That would have
yeah.
been a time where they would have been like, hey, make us a state if they really wanted to be. Uh, Ed says that won't make it past the Supreme Court.
Right.
That's why I say that's where from the highest level there's the dumbest fucking reason for not letting it happen. Uh, Helen says why volunteer for more servitude? They got it made as a
Yeah,
territory.
they really do.
Well, what do they get to avoid? Oh, he's talking about Puerto Rico. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
do. They have citizenship here. They don't.
yeah. They have citizenship. They don't have to
Right,
pay
and
federal income tax, I believe, and they get to vote.
makes a big difference. Is
Yeah.
that I now is that does that hold true for the District of Columbia? They still have to pay
I
taxes, don't
don't
they?
know. I
See,
don't know.
there's
We'd have to ask Steven about that.
we should that's what we need to find out is if they pay taxes or not because their in is like the most important reason to make them a state because that tells me they have taxation without representation. Is
I don't
that
know. There's
correct?
obviously someone is representing them. I'm not
No,
sure exactly how it works,
I'm pretty sure
but
DC if residents of DC don't have a vote on a representative. I
not
don't
like
think
in
they
the
get
House
to
of Representatives.
right. That's what I'm saying. That they don't have
Yeah,
anybody
I don't
that
know.
represents them in Washington at all. Nobody represents Washington D.C. as a district. In look at the Senate, look at the
Yeah, I know.
all the way across.
Yeah,
It's not represented, so those people don't have a vote. They don't vote on the Maryland tickets. They get
right.
to vote on president.
Yeah, but that's
Um,
it.
yeah, so I'm wondering if they pay taxes because that would be just like high crime,
I'm
wouldn't it?
sure they do. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Health says for voting purposes, just let those in DC vote in Maryland. Problem
Yeah,
solved. And I agree with that. But they
yeah,
would
that'd be
have to.
fine.
But the only thing is there the same laws that affect Maryland don't affect DC. So if you live in DC, you're covered by a different set of laws. So it's almost
Yeah.
like you'd have to have dual statehood or
Oh, they
a
do pay
different.
federal taxes.
See, now
Gotcha.
that's bad. That's really bad if you pay income tax and don't have any representation for the tax dollars you spend.
Yeah.
That's fucked
Yeah, I
up
don't
to
know.
me.
I don't really understand the whole DC statehood and how it works and why and if if or why they shouldn't be. I don't know. I don't
Yes.
know, Dick.
Um,
DC has a member in both, but neither have voting power. Interesting.
wow.
So
See,
they're not really represented, then, are they? I mean,
No,
their
if they don't
interests
have
aren't
any
at
voting
least.
power, their interests, no, their interests carry no weight. Um, so then, of course, that begs the question: why the fuck would you want to live in D.C.?
Yeah,
But
certainly wouldn't
there's
want to
got
live.
to be benefits to living in D.C. It's I don't
You
think
probably
Maryland.
have all the best like anti-missile defense systems and shit buried all around you.
Ed,
So you might be more protected than most cities. I'm guessing. I don't know.
Ed says it's a bit convoluted when it comes to taxes in D.C. I
Yeah,
know that their marijuana laws are pretty interesting there. I
yeah,
know
they're pretty chill.
medical and they're it's
They have
decriminalized,
decriminalized. Yeah,
and it's like, wait, so the seat of the federal government
yeah, it's
is
so funny.
okay with weed, but the rest of the country, fuck you, no, 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 no. I've always loved that. I've always thought that was rather interesting. Uh,
Ed
Ed
showing up
says
with the facts.
they do have representation, but it's not an official vote. They do have congressional delegation, and they have a municipality tax to pay, a municipality tax. But
Right,
do they pay income tax, or is that where the municipality tax
probably,
comes from? Is from their income.
probably.
Um, yeah, but it's. I mean, my thought is he says he can pop on and explain it to his to his
Oh
knowledge.
God, do we want to have a long conversation? We can definitely bring Ed on, but do we really want to have a long, like, in-depth discussion about taxes? It
Well,
sounds
I
extremely
think I
boring.
see it as having a discussion about these people's rights and whether or
All
not
right,
they should be
fair
allowed to
enough.
be a state.
Fine.
Hold on. Hold
God
on,
damn it.
Ed. I gotta get on
God
Discord and
damn
throw the
it.
link to you.
I don't want to sit around here and be like,
You want to talk to Ed? He's your favorite. You said
No, that's
so.
why I said we can definitely bring Ed
You
on. I'm
said
just saying, like,
next to me, Ed is your favorite person to talk to.
I don't know if I said that.
You did
I
say
probably
that.
did.
There's
I
your
probably
link,
did.
Ed. I'll watch for you to show up.
Oh man.
And if you don't show up, not my problem.
Right, exactly what Ron Helton said. Taxation is theft. It is all that needs to be known. Exactly. I don't
Okay,
give a fuck about your convoluted fucking tax system that
yes,
shouldn't be there in the first
but
place.
technically
Fuck.
you have taxation with representation where you're at.
Technically, on paper.
By the loose letter of the paper, you have that representation. I think it's enormously wrong if people have to live without that.
There's only two people
Now
who
he
can
needs
actually
10
legitimately
minutes.
represent
God
me.
damn it. Leave it
God
to Ed. I swear
fucking
that boy thinks with his stomach more than his good sense. I just don't. Oh.
He's always cooking, man. He's a good cook too. He can make a good burger.
All right, so we're just going to sit here and wait for him for
Yep.
10 minutes.
All right, that's way too
I
much
know. I'm
radio
like,
silence.
okay, we can't just sit here
Too much dead
because we'll
air.
actually lose people. For fucking that.
Yeah. God damn it, Ed.
Helton says, I have no representation. They do the opposite of what I want. The people get elected that I don't want. So where's my damn representation?
Yeah.
If you cast a vote, that counts as representation. That's where
Well, you choose who
that's
to represent you, and then they
well,
don't win.
yes,
Yeah.
that's just it. So that by going out to vote, you are represented, even if the person you vote for does not make it in. So there's a very, that's a very shady area or gray area about representation that we have to make do with in this lovely system. Uh, Casting a vote counts as pissing in the wind, and I agree with that.
You
However,
don't want to piss into the wind though, because the wind will piss back.
just remember that it is that mindset though that prevents so many people from going out and voting. I mean, I honestly believe that has had a lot to do with the decline in voting over the years and the decline in candidates over the years. Because I mean, I don't know, it's like they've shrunk the audience they're speaking to
Hmm.
correspond with the number of voters that are coming out. and then they pitch, of course they sector them all off into their groups and how much they need to focus on this group or that group because this group puts out more votes than this group. So,
Yeah.
and then of course these states are the important states because we see more voter activity in these states, and this is a swing and that's a swap and that's a flop and that's a drop, and you know and
Dude.
what.
No, Ron Helton's saying, well, first, Saint says, I want a divorce, and I agree. And then Ron Helton says, if those assholes obey the Constitution, it would not matter which of those jackasses got elected. 100% true. They would not be stealing our money and spending it on hookers and missile systems. Right. I would rather spend my own money on hookers and missile systems. Like that. Why can't I have them? I want to spend my own money on that. It'd be fucking awesome. Hookers and missile systems. Dude, you could fire hookers out of the missile systems. I mean, into like nets and stuff. Keep them safe. They're not going to kill them, but it'd be kind of cool.
Now I'm just gonna say this. I'm just gonna put this out. Have you ever like really paid attention to your taxes to see how much you pay in taxes,
Yep.
and then looked at that and broken it out and said, how much difference would that much money actually be making in my life at the
Yeah,
point I'm at, right? Are you of an income that it makes that much difference when it comes to taxation? Would that little bit that they're
yes,
taking out,
because it's not just a little bit.
it
So
is just a
yes,
little
it would
bit.
absolutely make a
It's a
difference.
small portion
It's a pretty
to
damn
do
good
to do
portion
your part, John.
for the greater
Don't forget some of
good.
that is Social
The
Security and not taxes.
greater good.
Some of that is just
The
money that you're
greater
investing for a
good.
later time.
Chant with me, Robert. The greater good. The
Um,
greater good. Yeah.
um, Helton says I could have had a second home in Puerto Rico.
Yeah. That's what
Maybe it's because you didn't consider making it your first home that you don't have. I don't know.
Dr. Yaron Brooks did. Uh he's the president of the Ayn Rand Foundation, and he just lives in Puerto Rico because they had the lowest tax in all of like the US territories. So he just lives there, and they have like the least amount of restrict like regulations, and it's the closest thing in the United States to a libertarian society, and so he just lives there and avoids as many taxes as he can.
Okay, Helton telling me
It's
to
a good
stop.
idea.
Helton's telling me to stop smoking it again. God, I
I
tell
think
you
he
what.
thinks you quit that one time.
No,
So like
it's
when you had
it's
your
just
daughter in here,
yeah. It's
yeah, he thought
it's
you quit.
you know. Look, if you could,
Yeah, Robert never quit. He hasn't
if
quit.
we could if we could get rid of all my stress from you know that would probably yeah, you know that might be a consideration, but till then,
Yeah.
you know it is what it is. He says Peter Schiff moved there. He says he's very happy, pays no federal tax.
Right.
It sounds like a fun place to be then. But of course, the question is it really? You know, it's a fun place to be depending on the hurricane season, I think.
Yeah. If you're rich, it's excellent. Obviously, you can afford a house that can withstand all the hurricanes. You can build like a hurricane bunker, and then just so as long as you're rich, right? You wouldn't want to live in like the slums of Puerto Rico. That would suck. But you get in one of the nice richy touristy areas. Hell yeah.
Oh, look, it's Ed.
Oh look, it's Ed.
Hold on, Ed's coming. Ed's
Hopefully
coming.
not too fast.
Well, you kind of got to expect that sort of thing.
Hi Ed.
Hi, Ed.
Hello.
How are you, Ed?
I'm hungry, quite hungry,
Fair enough.
which is exacerbated by the fact that I can smell garlic asparagus in the other room
Hell yeah.
that I just pulled out of the skillet. Let me get this up here so you guys can hear me.
What?
So let me get this. Yeah, exactly.
Oh man. So we're talking about taxes, huh?
Yeah, I don't necessarily know particularly the tax code and how it works in the inner workings for
Wait,
DC.
wait. You said you were an
But
expert.
I do know about representation because I did a little bit of research. I was going to do a solo video on this a couple of years ago, and it never got through because the news stories took me out of it. But I did look back up some of my research from that video so I could explain the representation side of it. It is a bit, there's a little bit of the taxation in there, but not that much. But it's really convoluted how they work the taxes and how they operate it within their system.
Okay, so first question is this. In doing that, did you look at the citizenry and how they differ from the citizenry of the state around them as well?
Yes, they are actually not in a state.
Yeah, it's
Right.
considered a district, right?
Mhm.
But the same laws of the state don't apply to them. The district has its own set of laws. Is that correct?
Yes.
And,
They do defer mostly to the federal government. You have to remember that Washington, D.C. is actually in the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
okay. So do they enjoy less government, as it were, in D.C. than in the surrounding state in Maryland?
No, because they do have an internal city government that takes care of the majority of their decisions.
But the majority of those decisions are not necessarily coming out of the White House or Washington, government proper. It's from a smaller government that oversees D.C. district, right?
Yes, let me find the page that I was looking
See,
for.
that's what I was trying to remember, because I know that they have government there, but I know that's not the federal so much that's overseeing DC citizenry.
Correct. No, Muriel Bowser takes care of most of the citizenry of Washington, D.C. as the mayor of the District of Columbia. Just looking down the Wikipedia here, because I know that's not the proper way to do it, but just on a quick Google search, that's the first thing that pops up. The mayor of District of Columbia is the head of the executive branch. The mayor has the duty to enforce city laws and the power to either approve or veto bills passed by the council. So the city council works as the same way that your state legislature would over in is it Tallahassee for you guys, or I thought it was Tallahassee.
Yeah,
The capital?
No,
Yeah.
or is it Jacksonville?
It's Tallowacker.
Okay.
Tallywhacker. Yeah.
They
Okay.
do have their own attorney general. Just the city of DC operates as a state, but it doesn't have the representation because where is the line? There's actually, because it's in Article 1 that it's not supposed to be. Where is it? God damn it! I had this bookmarked.
Now, Helton is saying it was the D.C. local government that banned people from owning firearms a few years back and went to the Supreme Court. I remember the Firearms Control Regulations Act of 75. The same law also prohibited possession of handguns, even in citizens' own homes, unless they were registered before 76. And that I remember that. What was that? Wasn't that a response to Reagan's assassination attempt?
I believe so. Give me just a second.
Oh, no, I was
my
just
stove on.
I'm kind of throwing that out to Helton, but I think that's what that was in response to. Was who was that shot him? John Hinckley Jr.
No.
All guns
so.
except for black powder must be registered with DC, except for black powder guns.
Yeah, black powder guns, because they were made before 1898, which is the cutoff for having to do.
It was because of Ford.
Ford.
Oh, Ford had an assassination attempt against him too, though, didn't he?
Maybe. I don't know.
That one I'm trying to. Too bad Yaz isn't here. That would be.
Motherfucker.
Dude, seriously, he's autistic about it.
Ed, do you remember Gerald Ford? Did he have an assassination attempt against him also?
Ford did not.
He did not?
He did not.
He was just clumsy, right?
Yes.
Gotcha.
No, Reagan did, but Ford did not.
Helton says he was in San Fran when Squeaky Frome tried to shoot him.
The fuck is this?
That's what I'm trying to say. Somebody made an attempt on Gerald Ford, and that sounds familiar. You'd have to look it up. I guess I could if I can not fuck
I'm
up
pulling
the show
it up right now.
Might be able to do it without killing the show.
Here, I don't know.
September 5th, 1975, Lynette Frome, a member of the so-called Manson family cult, attempted to assassinate the United States President Gerald Ford in Sacramento,
There it
California.
is.
There you
Yes.
go.
Manson. That would have been the trigger for me. So yes, I remember. I remember Gerald Ford having that happen. Um,
So I got a fake news myself because I did not know about that.
yeah. Um,
Fake news.
You are fake news.
yeah. That whole Manson family thing. That was some crazy shit right there.
Yeah.
You know, you want to talk about crazy shit. This George Floyd stuff is kind of tame when you look back at something like Charles Manson and that crazy shit he was pulling off.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, y'all ain't got nothing on that. That's old school fucking with things. Old school. But anyway, so let's talk about convoluted taxes in D.C. and whether or not these people are properly represented in Washington.
Riveting.
Hey,
Well, they
you know
don't.
what?
They do not have Senate representation. They get the same number of electoral votes as the smallest state.
Rhode
so
Island?
Actually,
that-
it'd be Wyoming because I believe Rhode Island has more electors than
Yeah.
Wyoming
big-
does.
by,
Geography.
by population, right? Not
Yeah.
size. I keep thinking Rhode Island isn't big enough to hold enough people to sway it versus any of the larger states. Because I mean,
They have
like
to.
you can throw
they
a
only
paper airplane across the width of the state.
They only let thin people live there, otherwise they can't fit as many.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead, Ed.
Anyway, no, they do have House delegation, and it's not an official vote, to my understanding. I have this up here. District of Columbia's at-large congressional district. The District of Columbia's at-large congressional district is a congressional district based entirely on the District of Columbia, according to the U.S. Constitution. Only states may be represented in the Congress of the United States. The District of Columbia is not a U.S. state and therefore has no voting representation. Instead, constituents in the district elect a non-voting delegate to the House of Representatives. So they do have a delegate that can lobby, that can try and sway the idea of bills, and that can try and turn things into the favor of Washington, D.C., but they have no official vote in the House of Representatives, and they have no Senate representation.
Okay, so now the Constitution's set up for Washington D.C. to be there, but was it at the founding? Was it intended that Washington would also have residents, like citizens, if that makes sense? Because I mean, was it intended that people actually live in this district or not? So was this a council that they were setting up in the early days as well, or how? I don't know if I'd have to really get into some history on this. That's what we need right now is a good historian that knows this. But
on July 9th, 1790, Congress passed the Residence Act, which approved the creation of a national capital on the Potomac River. The exact location was to be selected by President George Washington, who signed the bill into law on July 16th. Formed from land donated by the states of Maryland and Virginia, the initial shape of the federal district was a square measuring 10 miles on each side, totaling 100 square miles. 2 pre-existing settlements were included in the territory. So yes, they were intended to have people there because of Georgetown and Alexandria, Virginia, founded in 1751 and 1749, respectively.
Gotcha. So they would have had to be setting most of this up very early on to accommodate for that. All right. So how did their taxes get convoluted? What is it that you know about that?
Well, I know that they're going to have a city tax, which is going to be a municipality tax, which deals with upkeep on those evil things that those of us who are libertarians hate. You know what I'm talking about?
Roads.
Yes.
Fucking roads.
And just a quick question: should that not be the responsibility of the federal government to maintain the district, though, as opposed to the city itself?
Well, the city itself, on its independent governance, is independent of the federal government.
Right. I guess I would just.
So you'd almost have to designate it as a federal park, and then you wouldn't be able to improve on it if you wanted the federal government to be involved in it. It would be the same as Yellowstone at that point.
Yeah, I guess it just kind of makes sense to me that it's like, okay, here we're gonna put this all this federal government right here in this area, everything else, we have to maintain the area that it sits on, which is the 100 square miles. It's on us to do that, and we have to maintain for everybody that's going to live here, et cetera. I would think that would be a responsibility you'd put on that government, you know, on the federal government if they're going to take a swath of land like that. It just makes sense to me.
Look at something. Let me find something else down in my notes here.
See, I think it's just, they don't want to be responsible for what's outside on their front lawn. It's like, come on, dudes, come on. John?
Robert.
Okay, they do on the municipality have an income tax as well, 4% on the first 10,000 of taxable income, 6% on taxable income between 10,001 and 40,000, 7% on taxable income between 40,001 and 60,000.
Isn't that a much lower tax rate than the rest of us get?
Well, they don't have a state tax to go with.
Yeah. Well, we don't either in Florida.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But I think
so. That's just for the municipality.
I think those.
It's not the.
So then they'll still have to pay their federal income tax as well.
Oh, that was a municipality income tax. Oh,
yes.
Gotcha.
Basically, the state income.
Wow.
Which will go towards your roads, your sewer, your
gross, ew.
Yeah, your electrical infrastructure, all the infrastructure that goes into DC, plus the improvements on some of the parks, because most of them are not on federal land; they are on municipality land.
And then,
from my understanding of the district.
Then, of course, I'm assuming there's a sales tax.
I wouldn't know. I was not brave enough to buy anything when I was there.
Well, I can't imagine you'd have any place that doesn't have a sales tax. I don't think that's possible anymore.
New Hampshire doesn't have a sales tax.
Shut up. On what? Certain items?
Anything. New Hampshire has no sales tax, and neither does Texas.
No sales tax. Define that.
Well, they have a state income tax, but there's no sales tax, and there's no sales tax. I mean,
there's no state income tax in New Hampshire either.
Okay.
How do they build property?
That's how they build roads.
They bend the fuck over you on property.
So basically, just don't own property there.
That's exactly what my ex's parents told me when we were talking about that. I said, how do they maintain things? And her stepdad looked and said, well, here's the reality of living in New Hampshire. You're going to be able to get away with buying stuff without having to pay taxes on it. And we don't tax your income, but God forbid you own property in the state.
Wow.
So they bend you absolutely over on property.
So I wonder if they keep a very minimal rental market as well. I wonder if there's any way the state can manipulates that.
I know my ex's mom and stepdad rent and have for pretty much the entire time they lived in that state.
Well, it doesn't sound like you'd want to own.
Yeah. I wonder if the rent is higher in order for the landlord to make up for it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Easily.
All right, so then, let me present the question to you, John, and then also you, Ed. Should DC become a state? And I don't want to hear about the 51st problem. Should they be a state, John? Should that be allowed to go through?
I mean, that's up to them, I guess. Smarter people than me will.
It's got to go through the federal government, so
you know. It's not smarter people than me then, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. That's up to them, I guess. It doesn't really affect me, as far as I know. Unless it does, then I'll have a different opinion.
Well, okay. I guess that makes sense. So you're typical libertarian view. I don't care if it doesn't affect me.
Yeah, typical fence-sitting libertarian.
Yeah. What about you, Ed?
They actually can't become a state. It's unconstitutional per Article 1, Section 8.
All it takes is a ratification.
Well, that's actually not easy to get.
Or a new amendment.
I was going to say, no, it's not.
It's not easy to get, but it's not impossible to get either.
Sure.
I mean, crazier things have happened. Quite a few times, if the Constitution is any example. I'm just saying. I mean, I know how the Constitution has it set up, but again, one ratification, one new amendment. Look at what we did with with alcohol. Boom. Oh, you want to fix that? Just throw a new amendment in there.
Yeah.
It's really all you got to
Well,
do.
here's the reality of DC statehood. I actually would not mind seeing the residential area of DC ceded back to Virginia and Maryland.
Respectively, of course, right?
Yeah, back to, because that's remember, that was the donation from the two states to make
Right.
that district.
So redraw the original boundaries back in there and wherever
Yep,
you
and then
live.
just Capitol Hill area, the White House, uh, the Naval Observatory, the Capitol, and the Supreme Court. Those all be still in DC, but then cede the residential areas back over to their respective states.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's not hard to
But that's
do.
not what they want.
Right.
There is a reason this is coming up, and there's a reason this is coming up right now. First off, Nancy Pelosi knows full well it's unconstitutional to grant DC statehood, and it's not a territorial thing. It is the fact that it was drawn specifically in the Constitution for there to not be representation of DC into what the fuck is coming up on my computer? Why is the antivirus coming up right now?
Who knows?
Because the Gen Gap is on your computer.
That's right. You got cancer on your computer right now.
No, it was when Article 1, Section 8 was drafted, it was drafted that there would not be any representation to Washington, D.C., to the rest of the country. And I do believe that a part of that was to discourage people from actually living in D.C., so they would stay in the states and have representation. I can't read the founders' minds anymore at all. I can just read the documentation that they had.
Well, that leads me to believe that it's possible that the residential portions that they were building, that they were setting aside at that time, was for politicians to reside in while they were in Washington, D.C.
I don't even know if it was for that. I think it was just so that they would make sure that they had services like an inn or a cafe or something for them to stay at or service at the time, because they did have commercial establishments at the time. I mean, that's not a new thing.
Because
people still need to eat.
Because I don't know, it just kind of seems to go against, if you don't have true representation, I mean, there's a very fuzzy area that comes in when you've been talking and preaching this whole, no taxation without representation thing. But then you're like, well, one of the things we're going to do in the Constitution is set up an area where taxation can be a little fuzzy about whether or not you're represented, right? You can kind of half-ass be represented, but you don't really have any power. You don't really get a say-so in anything. But you're free to talk. We'll tune you out. I don't know.
As I was going through that, but no, I do understand. First off, this is an election tactic. That's all that this is. Nancy Pelosi knows full goddamn well that this can never be a state because of the Constitution, without passing an amendment which would involve getting 2/3 of the states on board, and 2/3 of the states in this country knowing full well that all they're doing is trying to pull 2 permanent Democrat senators into the Senate to try and sway elections.
Well, that's but see, that's the reasoning behind why it's said, rumored that Trump is going to fight this thing, is because
he doesn't have to.
Well, he does. Well, it's already passed the House, right? And it probably won't pass it, but he's going to do his own lobby against it when it's all said and done.
Because he doesn't have to. I don't understand what the effort is. He doesn't have to.
But when does anything happen that he doesn't feel the need to put his 2 cents in? Come on. Of course he has to say something. It's in his nature.
This was the plan all along, and that's where I was going, if you let me finish my point. This was an election tactic, because now the Democrats out there can run out and say, well, evil orange man doesn't want DC to be a state. He doesn't want representation for these people, in spite of the fact that they chose to live here willingly, knowing they wouldn't have any representation, but they'd get the cool welfare, because, I mean, that is a big part of living in a capital area, is the fact that the benefits are always really good. The cost of living is out fucking outrageous, but the benefits are always really good.
Hey, we got a new face in here. Josie Lewis showed up saying the problem with making it a state is before they do, Guam and Puerto Rico have to achieve statehood first.
But we talked about that a little, right?
Yeah. I was joking about that. Yeah, saying Puerto Rico or Guam needs to
Because we're not
it's what we got
holding
52.
we're not holding them back from that. Because I want to say that at least once before the offer has been made to Puerto Rico,
yeah,
and they
at least
denied
once.
it. They were like,
Right.
"No, we don't want to do that right now. That's not our thing."
Yeah.
They enjoy the benefits of being part of America without the restrictions that go with it.
Right.
Yeah, no,
And
there are three things that are going on with this. First off, this is an election ad. This is, I mean, everybody knew this wasn't going anywhere. Even if they had full mandate like they did back in 2008, House, Senate, and veto-proof House and Senate, both for Democrats, and Barack Obama being the president, they still couldn't have passed it because as soon as they looked at that in the Supreme Court, that is unconstitutional, no matter how much they want to legislate from the bench, which the Supreme Court at the time loved to do. It is unconstitutional to make DC a state. But they won't draw the line with ceding it back to their individual states because they won't get that extra Senate representation that's guaranteed for them. Plus, now they could run out and say, well, you need to vote the Senate because we need to change the makeup of the Supreme Court and pack the Supreme Court. We can't let Donald Trump get another judicial pick. This is all election ads. This is all this is.
Well, yeah, I can get behind that, but the question is he going to fall into the trap of it? Because
he didn't fall into the trap of the Chaz, which I'm very impressed by at this point.
Well, he did to a certain extent because he fell into he fell into that trap of being a blowhard with no action.
Well, no, I mean he was putting a lot of pressure on the governor to do something about it, which of course, like I mentioned before, is making the governor look weak during when re-election comes up, and showing that like, hey, I'm letting the states do what they want to do. It's a win-win for him to react the way that he has.
I still don't agree with that. I mean, from somebody who's like, okay, me, the statist in me is like, okay, if you're going to do something, fucking do something, because we've watched it throughout the riots, the blowhardery that goes on with it, and that shows a weakness when to me, it shows a weakness when you're just all talk and no action. He put pressure on the governor of Washington State, and what did she say? Go to your fucking bunker. I mean,
that was the mayor of Seattle.
Oh, the mayor of Seattle, right?
Inslee actually has enough tact not to do that, which also impresses the shit out of me because I saw him on the debate stage.
I don't call it. I don't call it a lack of tact. I call it fighting fire with fire. I mean, the way he approaches. I mean, that was an appropriate response in my opinion. And now they get to sit around and go, look, it resolved itself. CHOP is breaking up internally, and they're calling for a cessation of this thing. So, did he win anything by that? I don't think so, because there's a lot of people out there just like me who are saying, yeah, you're just blowing a lot of bullshit smoke.
Are you out of your mind?
Call me what you will, but I haven't seen the boot he's threatened to throw down anywhere.
He doesn't have to at this point. The reason that the CHOP actually came up in the first place was, and I'm so tinfoily right now looking at that whole thing that I do believe that this was pre-planned event between the city of Seattle and the leadership of the Capitol Hill Occupy protest. I'm so tinfoily at this point, just looking at the way this all played out, that I do believe that this is what happened. That the people that went in and were the leadership of this just gathered a bunch of their little friends to go and pretend to play revolutionary. They took over the occupied zone. They realized that they couldn't get any fucking welfare anymore. They actually seceded from the union. They changed their name. But the whole time, this was intended to get the Donald to bring out the National Guard.
Yeah.
So he could be he's the authoritarian that we've been telling you he was for years. And he is turning tanks against kids. He's turning missiles against kids. Oh, the fucking humanity.
But see,
now Jenny Durkin has a large amount of businesses in the area that are suing the pants off of her.
Yeah, if that was the only time that he blew that smoke, that would be one thing. But he's been doing it from the beginning. From Minneapolis forward, he's been blowing that same smoke. and
And
makes
yet he
himself
hasn't
makes
brought
it
any action out.
and no action, and makes himself look stupid by taking credit for the actions that others take, like Minneapolis with the National Guard. Well, if they don't do something, I'm going to come in there. If they don't do something, I'm going to come in there. Oh, well, it's a good thing they finally got the national. I got the National Guard in there, and blah blah blah. No, no, they put the fucking phone call in. They waited the 2 or 3 days it took to get the fucking National Guard,
Right.
up and running and into the city. Don't sit there and pull that bullshit, because I see the bullshit that it is.
So what's funny about that, what you're bringing up, is that's actually one of the 48 laws of power, is taking credit for what others do. Um, and like I said, I've been reading it with air quotes because I listen, but and like as I'm going through it, I'm kind of applying it to like more modern situations, and I mean, that's Trump has obviously taken that book to heart. He fully understands how to gain and keep power.
Well, I guess it speaks to the sadness of the education of the the population,
Hmm.
that they don't understand that he has nothing to do with that. That he doesn't call up the National Guard
Right,
in states, right? And even
right.
He
Chop,
can
if
actually.
he can't,
Yeah, I'm sure he can,
once he
but
takes control, he
yeah,
can take control, and then he can do that. But he has to enforce an executive action to do that. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, to somebody who's educated, it is just it's a fucking chihuahua yipping and not biting any ankles, like, and
right.
doing anything serious. And now the next point is right here in DC. Okay, here you go. You've been talking about pulling out all the stops in DC. When is that going to happen? When is it going to be more than shooting some tear gas at some people to get them out from in front of a church so you can do a pose with a Bible? I'm just curious, when do you do the things, the power? Show me. And he's done nothing. And I don't,
Right.
for me, that doesn't help his election chances as far as my vote is concerned.
Well, he already lost mine, so
Yeah,
Well, yeah, I
I'm
mean,
not a
I'm not
big
saying he
fan.
had it, but I'm just saying, if I'm a voter that's like, hey, if I'm statist at all, and I'm like, boot at all, I'm like, you're not doing dick, dude. You could have had all of this shut down long ago. All the parameters were there
Yeah,
for emergency action and national or martial law. It's been there. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, he lost a lot of my respect as well. I went from like a 60% approval rating to now about 50. So
Was that
well, I
yeah, I
because
don't
feel like he
now?
know.
did a fantastic job with the levers of power that he had at this point, but
Well, that's
he
what
had
I'm
to go
saying.
and
Yeah,
suspend the
he's
Fifth Amendment again,
yeah,
or continue the suspension of the Fifth Amendment, I should say.
right.
So, John, what was it? What was it specifically? Do you think it was it of the three choices? Was it A, the coronavirus? Was it B, the all of this protest rioting situation that's been going on, or was it a combination of the two that hurt your opinion of him?
Um, well, it's not even really that.
Oh yeah.
Not even yeah, not even really the Chaz stuff because, like I said, he's those are moves that he's making on like a chessboard. They're not his true feelings on any kind of matter. It's just all Uh, he's playing a game. Uh, no, what really did it for me was one, the most recent being the talking about wanting to uh ban burning the American flag. Uh, wanting to make that an arrestable offense. So that was the one that like the feather that broke the camel's back. Was that which obviously he hasn't done that yet, but
Sure, which
but
I would
he's
consider
also
more of that posturing that he does.
sure, and it very well might be, but I mean to even bring that up, I don't know. Just for my personal, not that he can't do it,
He's
but for my
trying to
own
speak
personal
to the
thing.
based base,
Right,
right?
right. Um, but he's also been, in my opinion, worse on the Second Amendment than Obama was.
How so?
Well, I mean, so banning the bump stocks for one through executive order, that one still sticks in my craw. I don't like it, especially through executive order instead of just working to pass an actual bill. which I still wouldn't want, but at least they went through the process or whatever. Um, and then he supported something about like the background checks and stuff. He was talking about increased background checks that everyone else was talking about. He's kind of throwing a bone to the
Right.
left with that, which obviously was never going to be enough. There's been other things I can't really think of off the top of my head right now. But yeah, no, I mean he's definitely flirted with taking away a lot of gun related stuff or adding on more regulation.
Well, he is a lifelong Democrat.
Well,
Right, exactly, and people seem to forget that.
I still have a very strong fear of what's going to happen to the First Amendment very soon. I mean, look at
That.
they're making significant attempts to start really addressing social media and
Yeah,
who's accountable for this, that, and the other, and
that's
and
another thing. Yeah,
and that slippery slope is going to open up and just go crazy. Go ahead, Ed.
To be fair, I'm also making significant attempts to procure a helicopter.
Are you actually though? Because that'd be kind of awesome.
Can you fly one? That's the key. Josie Lewis says Trump is playing the long game like you did, John. He knows that he has to build a FISA and RICO case before doing anything. Now the Marxist movement has handed him an excuse on live TV and in Madison, Wisconsin. Yeah, I mean, he's.
Oh, I must have missed what I knew what's been going on the last couple of days, but is there something more recent than yesterday or the day before in Madison? Because that's like 50 miles that way.
Well, are they having any luck in setting up their autonomous zone, as it were? I mean, is that near you, Ed, or?
I don't know. I don't go up there. I know that some dude walked into a bar with a bullhorn and a baseball bat, and they arrested him. And after that, the rioters went and threw a Molotov cocktail into the 911 building.
Oh, that
good.
sounds fun. Yeah, see.
And I hear one story that says that Evers pulled the National Guard out. I hear another one that says that he didn't. And I hear a third story that says the National Guard is pulled out, but the Madison Police Department says you are only a backup and we are being called off by the Madison mayor. So I don't know what the fuck is going on up there.
So I will say this. The next step that's going to happen that we're going to have to deal with is I'm expecting that we're about to see a lot more lockdown protocols either being reinitiated or increased because of this upswing that's going on with the coronavirus, like starting to see a lot more panicked headlines in the media in various places. Here in Florida, of course, again, this does go to what Trump said. He's like, well, if you're, of course, if you're testing more people, you're going to find more cases. And he's like, I don't agree with the whole, well, maybe we should just not test as much. No, we still need to test. Sorry. But like,
if you test, you'll find things that are wrong. Wrong, I tell you.
So, like here in Florida, the governor is going to go ahead and reinstate no alcohol in bars being served.
Yeah, I heard about that today.
Yeah,
I was actually thinking about asking my Irish friend what it was going to be like not going to the bar again.
I've actually only been once since the lockdown ended. I went with Sully one time. It was actually the Saturday after you guys were here, Ed.
And
that's the only time I've been.
They're going back to mandatory masks here in our county to make sure that we reduce the transmission. Well,
reduce these nuts. Fucking God.
I mean, and that's what they're running into. Like a couple of articles I read, they're talking to people on the street, talking to young kids. Young kids are like, well, I don't care. I don't have any family to deal with, and this, that, and the other. I don't care. I mean, why do I care about wearing a mask? And it's probably not going to kill me. So why do I care? And it's like, okay.
Well, so again, kids also think they're invincible.
But we're looking at this. We're looking at this idea of okay, again, lawmakers are now being put back in that position of how do you handle this kind of thing. You've got people sitting around out there that are like, well, it's not very community minded when people aren't wearing masks because that's what we're being told is the right thing to do. And but if they're not doing it, well, somebody needs to enforce it. And then if you're in a seat of power, what do? Right? So I think we're going to see a lot more of this, which is now going to amp up measures. If I, in my opinion, coming from the federal government, in as far as a combination of the protests and the upswing in cases. Because guess where they're seeing, surprisingly enough, or not surprisingly enough, a lot of the new cases that they're finding are in the younger crowd, like the younger generations.
Yeah, but
Um,
have you noticed that we haven't seen that many more deaths?
Right.
it's neither here nor there. Think, the thought process is going to be what? Spreading a disease. It doesn't matter that they're not dying.
Right.
They're potentially spreading it to people who can. And I mean, that's it's one of those things where it's like, but we're also in like 2 weeks into seeing this major upswing. We're starting to really get into the full upswing, and people keep it, for at least 2 weeks before they actually are symptomatic, and then however long. So the death count, as it were, from this new upswing is still to be told. We won't see the butcher's bill for another week or two. That'll start rolling in on a heavier level, or should, if the virus is killing those people. But I mean, you've got these protests everywhere with people spreading the virus. What do you do?
I,
Um, herd
here's
immunity,
reality.
man. That's the only way you can really do it.
Here's reality.
Otherwise, it's
People
going to
are going
stick
to
around.
assess their own level of risk.
Yeah.
They're going to decide what's worth it for them to risk and what isn't. That's what people are going to do. That's what freedom is. And a lot of people are going to make the right decision on this. I don't mind wearing the mask as long as it's not the government telling me I have to. If I want to go to Menards for something, I'll put the mask on. I don't care. It's their house, it's their rules.
Yeah.
And I don't, if I don't want to wear the mask, I won't do business with the place. It's plain and simple as that.
Okay,
Yeah.
But
so let me ask you this. Let's look at the nap. All right. There's there's a viral disease going around that does have a death toll associated with it.
mhm,
It can be transmitted easily.
I don't buy that second clause, by the way.
Look, all we can go on is what the information
It's
we told.
a
That
hypothetical virus that
right.
we're talking about.
No, it's a hypothetical death toll.
Well, that,
Well, it's,
yeah, the
yeah.
death toll. I get that the numbers are going to have some. I get that part. All right,
How do you distinguish between dying from the virus and dying with the virus?
and dying in association with the virus, right? Suicide. Like how
Mhm.
many suicides have been counted amongst the death toll from
Yeah.
coronavirus, right? Um, I get
George
what you're
Floyd
saying there,
is counted in the death toll of the
but
virus.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is there was a death toll being presented. So from the NAP perspective, if you're a person who believes in the NAP and the suggestion or the recommendation, strong recommendation is that you wear a mask to not put others at risk. Does the NAP factor into that in your obligation to wear a mask?
Yes, because if they don't want to get the disease, I'm not aggressing on them when I go outside.
Right.
They can choose to stay home.
Right. And so this is like the problem with these sorts of arguments is it always it never takes into account the agency of the other person. So you're just like, oh, I should wear a mask because I don't wouldn't want to risk infecting someone, someone else.
Right.
But the thing is, this doesn't take into account that person's agency and the fact that, like what Ed said, where they're going to take their own, their own precautions based on how much of a risk they think they are. So like there's stories about people having going to see like their elderly parents or grandparents, and they'll stand at the end of the driveway and like yell to the door so that they're maintaining that distance, right? Obviously, there's no need to wear a mask at that distance, and so but they're taking those kind of precautions without anyone telling them to. So it's not like oh, it's because I don't want to wear a mask, I'm walking around and I'm just infecting other people, because they're it's up to them to take precautions as well.
I can see that argument. I guess it just comes down to the point where, again, I put myself in the position of someone who's got the responsibility for all their constituents on their plate. And how do you address this from a standpoint that people don't care if they put themselves or others at risk with this?
Mhm.
I mean, so, it gets down to, do you enforce? So if someone tests positive for having the coronavirus, are you allowed to enforce a quarantine on that person so that
Well,
they're
that would
not out in?
violate the non-aggression principle.
Do I say that again?
That would violate the non-aggression principle.
By enforcing a
Enforcing a
quarantine?
quarantine on a person. You are
Okay.
aggressing against that
But
person.
are they violating the non-aggression principle by knowingly going out with the disease?
No. Anybody who doesn't want to get the disease has the full and
How
complete
do I?
option to stay the fuck home.
Yeah, I mean, if he
But
went
if
into
you
someone's
have the
home,
disease,
that's
you don't
different,
have
right?
any obligation to stay the fuck home.
Not a no, I mean not like a legal one. You might have a moral obligation,
Right.
Yeah.
but that would be but that's up to you to, you know, be moral or not. It's not up
Wow.
to others to enforce morality on you.
So but that means getting rid of institutions that we've had in place, or whatever you want to call them, of like the government being responsible for the public health.
The government isn't responsible for public health. It
Whenever
never
in
has
these
been.
situations, when they make laws, yeah, they are. That's what they're doing. They're taking responsibility for the public health.
Yeah, how's that
That's what
working
they're
out?
doing. That's what I'm saying. I mean, the public has a certain expectation of the government to
Right, that's what it
respond to
is.
these situations
That's the
and handle
problem,
them in some way.
and that's the problem.
Well, I mean, that's it fall. You could qualify this as falling under a foreign invader. I mean,
I don't think that's what that means. That's a pretty loose interpretation.
sure, I get it, but how many other things in our in our in
I'm
our
not saying it
laws
can't
and
be done. I'm just
constitution are
saying,
loosely
yeah,
interpreted? I'm just saying.
right.
We do that for a living in this country. Let's loosely interpret everything. Let's check the chat real quick. So Eldon says maybe 1 out of 10 people there are wearing masks. He doesn't even like being around people, so he doesn't even hug and kiss them. But does that mean you're not huggable and kissable? He says he hasn't worn one yet. Put others at risk. Sorry, bullshit. They should just stay home or take their own safety precautions. Right, and that's why I say it comes down to a fine line to walk. There's a difference between not knowing if you have it and knowing you have it, and what you do on a community minded level. Because, that's what it comes down to me, is like, if you're not taking care of it on a community level, somebody needs to step in. It goes to that parent mentality, right? Okay, we need to lay down some ground rules for the whole fucking house that everybody deals with, so that we can stop all the kids from getting sick and dying.
Right.
Right? That's where they go to. He says, I went to the store yesterday, saw a little petite woman in her 80s in the produce section. She was not wearing a mask. And that, to me, is, I'm only 51 and I'm still wearing a mask, just because if it's some small barrier of protection, I'll take it. Plus I don't want to
You're
listen
also
to,
required to by law.
I don't want to listen to any. I could go in there and say, I could say anything I want. It still falls under if you're asthmatic or running sports or doing, you can still say, have a reason. They give you the Karen reasons that you can get out of it. But I just do it because, if it is some minor barrier to protection, and that 80-year-old woman, she might want to consider it. But then again, maybe she's like, fuck it, she can live through anything. I don't know. She's lived through the last 80 years. She can make it through this, I guess.
Yeah.
He said he kept his distance. If she gets sick, it's on her, not me or the other
Right.
patrons.
Yep.
He says, Helton also says everybody's going to get the virus eventually. Millions here already have it, and many did not even know it. I can agree with that. I'm hoping I don't, though. I want to be that percentage that doesn't get it, because I don't want to take a chance of finding out just how fucked I am. You may be doing this show by yourself, John.
Fuck.
Right?
Look
right?
at you start coughing.
Institution Stockholm Syndrome. The government is only responsible for defending our liberties, and they have failed. Now you want to entrust them with our health. You go ahead, Pilgrim. I prefer to take care of my own health. Government is run by a bunch of morons. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get it, but guess what? Here's the thing that is still always going to fall out from that. People that feel like that are still such a small,
Yeah.
unspoken majority, right?
I
Or
wouldn't even say they're a
Yeah, well,
majority.
well, I mean, there's a
I,
lot of people that feel
I also
similar
wouldn't say that they're
ways,
unspoken. They're definitely unheard, but they're certainly spoken.
yeah.
but the problem is it begins to get fractured. You know, we start to look at the fractured mentalities that surround it. You know, like I've seen people that are like, oh, fuck these lockdowns, it's not right, but why aren't people wearing masks? Right? You still got to wear masks, but fuck these lockdowns, and I rebel against the lockdowns. But put my mask on, put my mask on, put my mask on, right? Make
Well,
people
yeah,
wear
that's a.
masks, make people wear
Oh, make
masks.
people wear
Well,
masks
yeah,
is
you know, like,
different.
well, yeah, sorry, yeah, but you know, people need to be
Yeah.
wearing masks. People need to be wearing
Well, yeah,
masks.
if you say,
But fuck these
I think
lockdowns.
people should be wearing masks, that's fine. You want to pressure people into wearing masks, that's even fine. It's when you're threatening to either to throw people in cages or shoot them if they don't, if they don't agree, then that's already tyranny. You're done like that. No,
Well,
not interested.
that's just how we do things, John.
I understand that. That's kind of the root of most of our problems.
Well, you're not going to get anywhere with the tyranny that you want to put in its place.
The tyranny of freedom. Yeah, you have no idea how much I'm going to aggressively leave you alone. It's going to be ridiculous.
So, so, so you want me to trade one tyranny of freedom for another?
Yes, I want you to be responsible for yourself.
I'm
If
free
that's
right
tyranny,
now.
then I'm
I'm
sorry.
free right now, John.
No,
I'm
you're not.
free. Sure, I am.
No,
I don't have.
your bill to exist has been paid for this month.
I
You
don't
just
have
wait.
the liberty.
Sit there for longer and not stop paying bills and such. You'll see how much freedom you have.
I may not have the liberty to do anything that I want, but that's just a small price to pay for the
For living in this
immense amount
society.
of freedom that I'm able to live in. So,
You're
you
not
know,
able to.
watch.
You
I don't
paid the
care.
extortionist bill,
Take
so you
over
get
the
to exist
take
there for longer.
you and Ed go and get rid of the government. I want you two to go and just get rid of the government.
All right, ready,
And
Ed?
then
Go.
but then, you know, make sure that when you do it, you can guarantee that there won't be any tyranny, any corruption, and that
Whoa,
everything will
whoa, whoa,
be
whoa.
thoroughly free. Nobody's going to take any liberties from anybody else.
I can't go and
Yeah, that's
end
pretty
the
much.
government because that's against the NAP.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
not
no,
true if
actually,
you did
they've
it the
Better
right
aggressed.
leave me
way.
alone.
Actually, they've aggressed against you first, so not really. Really wouldn't be
As long as they don't come onto my property, they're good.
What?
property.
That's not your property.
Yeah,
Why do you tell yourself that?
you're leasing it. That
You're
is all you're doing.
you just need to remember, if anybody comes on your property, you're defending it for
For the government.
for the government. That's what you're doing. You're defending your property for the government. And they allow you to pay taxes to do that.
Yeah,
Looting the public, Helton. That Helton,
yeah, that's what they do.
he's a little bit of an anarchist, if you ask me. I'm just saying.
No, he's a lot of an anarchist.
Yeah.
Shh, I was trying to be nice.
Yeah, I like Ron, man. He's cool. He's all no bullshit, no nonsense. Just
One of these days, we're going to have to get
fuck
him on the
that.
show. I just need to hear his voice. I need to have a voice to associate with that mentality.
We've heard his.
I've
We've
heard
heard.
voice.
Yeah, we've heard
Wait,
his voice
when?
before. He's been in the voice chat
Oh,
and
I
the
haven't
Discord
been.
server
I
before.
have missed that opportunity, I think. Then.
No, you were there.
Was I?
Mhm.
No.
Yep.
When?
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay, let me ask a more important question. Have I slept since then?
Yes.
Oh, then I don't remember shit.
I assume you have at least.
I don't remember shit from that then. Yeah. You know, it's one of those things, you know, you just wipe at the end of the night. It's like a browser cleanse. So, Ed, have they started anything in regard to the lockdowns? Have they started? Where does your state stand right now on easing?
They're still trying to figure out what they're going to do with Madison.
Wait, still trying to figure out if they're going to let that. Do you not have any lockdowns still going on?
I think they're too preoccupied to worry about lockdowns right now. I think they have something else on their plate.
Well, I understand that something's going on in Madison. What I'm asking you are all the stores open, all the bars,
Yes.
restaurants?
Yes,
Has you
everything is
have
open
your
currently.
so all your lockdowns have been released?
Hmm.
Okay. And
And yes, private businesses are still going out and doing things differently. In my county, there is no dining in most fast food areas or most fast food places. There's no dining at all. The Wendy's, the McDonald's, the Taco Bell have no internal dining. The places where there is internal dining, they have every other table roped off, so
Mhm.
you can't sit very close to each other. And some of the stores do still have a limit of how many people that can come in. The local Woodman's, no longer has that. So we are back to business as normal right now. Plus, Evers got defanged by the Supreme Court, so he is afraid to go and try and make another lockdown. If they're going to go into another lockdown mode, it's going to come down from the legislature, and they have no interest in doing that.
so you're saying all the private businesses are doing that of their own impetus? It's not
Mhm.
directives coming from the state in
That is
easing the
correct.
lockdowns? Because that's
That
how
is
they did
correct.
it here. But these were directives that came from the state as they rolled back the
And
lockdowns
I'll be right back, all right?
because
No,
they
what happened here was Evers tried to pull a Gretchen Whitmer, and the Supreme Court said, "Thou shalt not."
so you guys don't have so what about your coronavirus cases in the state? Are you on an upswing
No,
at the present time? Had that
we are not.
have Are you still on a downswing, or are you just holding at a level? I mean, because when
We are
the
holding at a level, and I don't think we have had any recent deaths.
well, that's interesting. But of course,
We barely had any deaths to begin with, though.
well, you don't have the population densities like other states do, though, do you?
Well, Minnesota was kicking our ass. They also don't have a population density.
How close are you to a major city? Not asking you to call it out, just how close are you to a major city?
I work in a minor city. I'm probably 50 miles away from Milwaukee, and I'm 40 miles away from Madison.
Well, I to be fair, I think that the lockdowns are more of an issue here, or the precautions have to be more of an issue here because Universal opened up this month,
Mhm.
and Disney is set to open up the first week of July, and of course that's going to start bringing a ton of people back into the state. You guys don't really get that much of that, am I correct? Except
You are
during
incorrect.
sports season.
You are incorrect.
You got a lot of you get a lot of tourist traffic there.
Oh, yeah. We are one of the biggest tourist states in the country,
Yeah.
especially in flyover side.
For what?
We've got the Leafers every year.
Got
Is
what?
one. The Leafers.
Oh, Leafers.
Yep.
What's that?
People who go
People that come
watch
to see the
the
leaves change.
yeah.
Oh,
We've got Leafers
really?
every
They come
year.
there for that?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. All right.
We've got the river traffic because a lot of people want to follow the Mississippi River up and down for the entire length. We get a lot of that in. We have the water park capital of the world.
Really?
Mhm.
Very surprised by that.
Wisconsin Dells, Wisconsin.
Oh, I've heard of that.
But
Oh, I think
that
you told me about that actually before.
now
Yeah, I did.
that
Yeah.
is specifically seasonal, though. Am I correct?
That is correct.
So, but which you're getting ready to come into that. You're in that season now.
We're in that season currently.
Right.
Plus, we get a lot of camping traffic. And once again, that's seasonal. I don't know why it is, but people love to camp in Wisconsin.
It's the cheese. If they eat enough cheese, they'll be constipated and they won't have to worry about pooping outdoors. Best place to go camping.
Solid logic.
Mhm.
It's what I would do. Take plenty of cheese. Yeah. So, but none of that seems to compare to, I don't know, Disney, Universal, all the Busch parks.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
we get tourists like everywhere in Florida. There's
Yeah.
obviously the Everglades,
And then the beaches.
Key
Good
West,
Lord.
all the beaches, like all of the beaches.
Yeah.
It's insane how many tourists are here.
I thought people went there for the hipster cafes.
No, that's just you guys. It's just you and Steven.
The hipster cafes.
Yeah.
God.
Rap album?
Oh my god, dude, that was so funny. That poor guy, he was like, I don't want to be here. Like he's just like rap album. Like, oh my god.
Well, see, now you're talking about
like
something where you
cringe.
had to be there. You
Yeah,
can't do
you
that
definitely had to be there.
because nobody, even the chat, will be able to follow that.
Dude, we made fun of Steven for it and stuff. Yeah, it was funny.
So yeah, no, I was. Helton says Wisconsin has lots of beautiful trees. I'll give that, but I don't know. I'm like, I think back to driving through Arkansas during the fall, and I'm like, man, that was some, that's beautiful country. I don't know. I don't think about going somewhere like Wisconsin because it seems much colder to me than staying somewhere where, yeah, I don't know, where it's not cold.
Yeah.
Because you guys get really fucking cold up there, don't you?
No, just to 40 below. That's the coldest we get.
Yeah,
that's
thanks.
not bad.
No.
Yeah.
No. I'll see.
Yeah, you keep that shit up there.
Yeah, I'll
right?
stick to places that get maybe 10 below at tops. Yeah, I'll stay south.
I'll stick to here where it gets to like 60.
So yeah, now I do think that there's going to be a lot going on in the next month, where we're going to see more of that Corona stranglehold. From the media first, right? The media is going to start pumping it now that they don't have as much
They already have.
George Floyd going on, right? That's kind of tapered off somewhat. So now they got to refocus back on Corona, build that fear back up again.
Yeah.
And then we're going to see responses from different states in regards to that. Florida is a good example of where we're going to see a lot of it happening. I mean, it's, but I don't know. It tells me that something more statist is going to happen in response to bringing it all under control. And I don't know. I think we need to be prepared for that. I think you should be prepared for something serious happening that's just going to be, because eventually he's just going to have to be like, fuck it. I don't want to deal with any of it anymore. Send in the fucking troops.
He's not going to do that before the
Put
election.
everybody in their fucking houses.
Yeah. He wouldn't do something like that before the election. It would have to be after. If something like that was going to happen, which I don't think it would.
Somebody
Send
from
in the troops. They're the best troops, the finest troops. We will have law and order.
You watch
and tweet about it.
That I can't stand when he's doing that all the time on Twitter, being like "law and order" in all caps.
Yeah,
like, it's a good show, but
he just throws that out there right now. That's like it's
yeah.
I'm like, what?
It's like, dude.
And see, that's the thing.
Down,
you're
man.
not bringing either one. You're not bringing either one. You say it, but you don't spray it. I mean, what you doing? What you got? I think what's going to happen is Antifa is going to infiltrate into and get a page in there, and then they're going to wormwood him in the fucking ear and get him to institute, martial law.
Is that what you think?
Yeah, I think that's what they're going to do. They're going to 4D chess his ass right out of office.
I don't know. He's pretty damn good at that game, so I don't know.
Is he? Is he? Law and Order.
Yeah. His plan is just yet to be revealed. It'll all make sense in the season finale.
Law and Order.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you are right. The writers for Federal Apprentice this season did outdo themselves.
Yeah, they did.
All right. So since you brought that up, I have one more question. And then
I doubt that.
We'll go ahead and wrap this up. Yeah.
All right, figure out what happened to your mic because you just dropped off.
He's just not talking into it.
I was looking at my watch, Ed.
He's a fucking amateur.
Back.
He sucks at being a professional.
Yeah. No, when I suck, I am professional. Wait.
But
anyway, so
yuck.
whether it be this election or, of course, when he has to leave in 2024, how long after he leaves office will the next season of The Apprentice air? Go. ideas, thoughts?
I mean, immediately, right?
You think it'll be immediate, like
It
within
has
the
to be.
first year?
Way before then, like
Probably.
the whole it's. I mean, it's gonna.
Well, I mean, they've got to
There's going to be
film it.
there's going to be so many MAGA people that are just running to get
Oh,
on that
yeah.
if they're going to do that. I want to work for Trump. I have a red hat, Mr. Trump. Come and pick me.
Okay, so and of
I
course the
believe
first
in the
episode.
Patriot Act. I know because you signed it. It must be good.
Oh my god.
Fuck that.
Would you expect the first season is going to be all the people that he fired on his staff during the course of his presidency? That would be a fucked up apprentice season, but it would be funny as shit to see, wouldn't it? Like everybody that he fired in his first 2 or 3 years, just that's the batch of apprentices.
That would be awesome.
That would be really fucking funny.
I'd be down. I'd watch it. Probably. Probably not. I'm lying. I probably wouldn't end up watching it. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't watch the first one. I didn't care.
I think I watched the the original one when it first came on, like the first batch of Apprentice. So like my parents wanted like we're watching it, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I guess I'll watch this. Yeah, that was actually
I've
the first
never
time I
seen a
saw.
single episode of Survivor.
I've seen a few of those too from the
You know
beginning.
why?
Like I said,
You know
Why?
why? Didn't give
Why?
a fuck.
fair enough. I haven't seen. I saw 2 episodes of Breaking Bad and 2 episodes of The Walking Dead.
You've seen 4 more episodes than I have.
Yeah, I always give 2 episodes if I'm gonna watch something. I've said it before on the show though. It's kind of how
I don't know, man.
determine if I'm
I
gonna
think
keep watching
I
something.
think you're missing out with The Walking Dead because I think it really did a good job of not exposing, but showing what a very realistic apocalyptic scenario with how people react and what they will do in the societies that they set up and their own brands of law and order that they enacted in their different
Sure.
communities, this, that, and the other.
Sure.
In trying to put society back together with law and order.
But in all seriousness, no. I mean, we've talked about some of the secondary issues while we've been here today. But can we talk about the real issue of the week, especially seeing how we're talking about television?
I know what that issue is.
What is
Mike
it?
Henry quit Family Guy today.
Who's he?
He was the guy that voiced Cleveland because
Oh,
a black character should be played by a black actor.
oh. But wait, an Indian character can't be played by an Indian actor. So, in reference
What
to
do
The
you mean?
Simpsons.
No, The
Apu?
Simpsons made that declaration as well.
But wasn't the original guy actually Indian?
Yeah.
Right, so there you go.
You
But
fuck-
he's not allowed to do it. So, like, what the hell?
Yeah, they made the same declaration. Now he can't.
Yeah.
People of color, white people can no longer play people of color.
Well, you probably
Fun.
can't even. They're probably not allowed to have that character on there anymore because he's too stereotypically
Right.
Indian, right?
Well, he's the American dream. We can't have that. You know, the hardworking immigrant coming over and making something of himself and supporting his family. You know, can't have that. that espouses good moral values. That would be ridiculous.
Do you think if they just let him, like if they stopped having him make people get away from the magazine section, like just let him read like it was a library, that would make him less stereotypical? And then he'd be
Doesn't
okay.
matter how stereotypical he is.
That's the reason why you got to get rid of the character.
Like they're all stereotypical. I mean, look at Chief Wiggum. Stereotypical fat dumb police officer.
I disagree.
Incompetent as well.
Next thing you're gonna say, Bart's typical Gen Z.
No, he's typical like Gen X as a kid. I think is what he's supposed to represent.
Yeah, cowabunga, dude. Cowabunga.
I've never said cowabunga, dude, unironically. So.
Neither is he. All right, let's get the hell out of here. So I appreciate everybody that's shown up tonight and did their chit chat with the hip hop and the flip flop and the John. They can talk to us other places, can't they? I don't know.
There's a few other places that can contact us. Firstly, in the description, there's our Twitter link, which is at the Gen Gap P.
Got a point.
Yeah,
So
Ed, if you're not pointing, it doesn't work.
you got to point.
There you go.
There you go. Not at your junk.
I always point at
Anyway.
my junk.
Right, where else do you point?
At least somebody
That's
has.
my mating call, is to point at my junk.
No, you can also find our link to our Discord server, which is a lot of fun to be in. So make sure you go and do that. Then you can find us over on Freedom Scoop. You can find all of our stuff and Ed's stuff
That guy.
as well down here. You can find Stephen Ignoramus's stuff. God damn. You can find who else we have. Wyatt from Roundtable Decisions over there. We've got Mr. RRC, the R-rated conservative, and Freckles and Brit show is over there now. So make sure you go and check that out.
That's a lot of freedom.
Yeah. Speaking of freedom, you have the freedom to purchase one of our shirts. There's a freedom that you possess still. Don't let them take it away from you. Exercise that freedom to buy our shirts and mugs.
That was kind of a reach.
It's in the Constitution, dude.
It is. You have that right. Do not let them take it away. You also have the right to put in the code GINGAP at checkout to get 15% off of your purchase. So again, make sure you do that before they take it away from you.
All right. Helton says, I guess Robert got his fill of my self-rule comment. Sounds better than anarchy. I'm just going to put this out there, Ron.
It does sound better. We weren't able to read the chat as much.
The only problem that to take away from it all, when you think about self-rule, you cannot trust this many people to self-rule.
I can trust me to self-rule. That's the important part.
I mean, hell, how much trust did we put in protesters to keep it peaceful?
None.
No, I always knew that was coming. I knew that was
right.
That was engineered.
And there's my point. You can't trust the population to rule themselves properly.
Right, but I can trust myself to rule myself properly.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
But I can't trust that in you. So I need the government to make sure that you follow the same rules that I do.
Fuck your rules. Hey. Shut up, Dad. Stop telling me what to do, Dad.
It's about being equal, bro. That's equality.
Yeah. As in, like, you can equally leave me alone.
It's equality, bro. It's equality. Ed, thank you for showing up tonight. I hope we didn't disturb your food too much, but I don't really give a shit. Because you're always messing with food when we're...
I know.
Every time I turn around, it's something else with food. I don't know. You've got a problem.
I
think you're addicted. You're probably eating food every day, aren't you?
I know, right? Just can't get enough.
He's hooked
every day. Maybe sometimes multiple times a day. It's sad, dude. We need to stage an intervention.
Yeah, probably.
He probably drinks water too.
Hitler drank water.
He did. That means you're a Nazi. How dare you?
But his water was holy water. Ask him. He'll tell you.
He also breathed oxygen, so...
Statist fuck.
I won't breathe the government's air.
Hey, before we go, Ed, you got anything going on you want to tell us about? Anything? Nope, nothing? All right.
I actually do have an announcement there.
Oh, shut up.
Everyone else already knows.
Are you pregnant?
Yeah.
No. This coming Monday at 5:30 p.m. Central Time is the final episode of Ed's World. So come and hang out with us as I move things on into newer and better things.
What's Ed's World?
Nothing anymore. It's being memory hold.
Yep.
It never existed.
I knew that cancel culture was going to catch up to you, Ed. I just knew it.
No, I will be welcoming on a permanent co-host starting on July 6th. So.
Do you have a new name for that show?
The Red and Ed Show.
The Red and Ed
Show.
The Red and
nice.
Ed. Red, Ed, and there's something there. We have to think.
Red Ed Redemption.
Well, I was thinking Ed, and Eddie.
Right.
I'm trying to think of something that went along with that. But Red, Ed, and Hetty. But anyway, so that's going to be July 6th this year?
Yep.
All right.
No, it's 2 years ago.
No, I didn't know if maybe this was like there was going to be a lot of pre-production that goes into it, and then it's going to be released in 2021.
Right.
You know, maybe he wanted to wait till after the election to see where he wants the show topics to go.
No, we're actually fairly excited to get this started and get moving on this, especially going into the election.
Damn Skippy.
For
I
sure.
heard there's one of those coming up. But anyway, all right, we're gonna get the hell out of here. Remember, do your part in whatever it is that you want to do your part in, but don't do your part to fuck things up. That's the part we don't need. Um, November's coming, and remember, if you get out there and vote, you can make a difference in your activity level. I'm just saying. Take a walk, go vote. But but we're gonna get the hell out of here. We'll be back again on Monday night for our regular shooting the shit episode. And then, of course, we'll be back again, and that's at 9:30 on Monday evening. And then we'll be back again next week as well for our regular episode, like we're having tonight at 8:30 Eastern Time.
Oh, yeah.
The only true time zone,
That's
Eastern
right.
Time, the one that matters, the
Fucking
one that
Hoser Central Time, am I right?
Yep, we get the sun first, and who knows? We might have some new stuff that we're talking about introducing to the world at large. Keep your fingers crossed. There might be something in the works.
Oh, my
Oh no! But Ed, thanks again for showing up. John, thanks for showing up and all of that stuff. And Ed, if you'd like the last word, I'll give it to you. Just don't get me too excited because I'm here alone.
No. Don't never take the words of bloggers, podcasters, or journalists as gospel. Find all the facts and draw your own conclusions.
Gotta
Take
love
care.
it. Peace.
All right. See you guys.
The war begins.